Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vasudevendra Yogindram Nattva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattvabodha Vidhiyate. Page 36. Sthula Sharirabhimani Jivanamakam Brahma Pratibimbam Bhavati Sa eva Jivaha Prakritya Swasmad Ishwaram Bhinnatvena Janati. Sthula Sharirabhimani Jivanamakam Brahma Pratibimba Bhavati. Bhavati is telling us what obtains that Jivanam. There is something called Jiva. Jiva Pranadharana, one who sustains his life. One who is living, sustains a life, goes through the process of birth and death. This Jiva, the individual self, is Sthula Sharirabhimani, one who entertains an identification with the gross body. And if you remember, in order for the identification of the gross body to be, there should also be identification of the subtle body as well as the causal body. So we said that the waker is called Vishwa, the one who identifies with this causal, subtle and gross bodies. And so this is now referring to the waking state. We analyze the dream state, deep sleep state to learn from them. But basically all teaching and all knowledge has to take place in the waking state. Because this is where we have the awareness of our own intellect, the free will, faculty of choice, all of this total expression of our personality is in the waking state. So this Jiva, the individual self, Brahma Pratibhimbam, is comparable to a Pratibhimba or a reflection. Reflection of what? Reflection of Brahma. Brahma, as the very word suggests, means limitless. Bruhatvad Brahma, so that which is big, that which Bruh means in the sense of Vruddhi or the growth, so that which is big, unqualified, big means limitless. So Brahman means limitless. So that is the Lord, Ishvara, or the truth which is limitless, which is not limited in time, place or any condition, Brahman. The Pratibhimba, the reflection of Brahman is called Jiva. So what this Jiva, the individual self is like, not exactly, but like the reflection of Brahman, reflection of the limitless. So this morning we discussed how this example of reflection helps us to understand the various things that we conclude or think about ourselves. And it is my experience that I am a limited being, limited in time, place, limited in every way. Brahman is limitless in every way, whereas I find myself to be limited. So how do we explain the sense of limitation? Like a reflection feels itself limited, like the sun being reflected in a bucket of water. So the reflection would think that I am a small little one confined to this bucket. If there are a number of buckets in which the sun gets reflected, then there are many reflections. And each reflection may think that I am different from other reflections. I am limited, one among many. As we said, if this water is muddy, then the reflection is dull. So a reflection may think that I am dull, I am bright, I am not so bright. If the water also is shaking, then the reflection may think that I am shaking, agitated. Thus we feel sometimes that I am agitated, I am dull, I am not very bright, I am limited. So the kind of feelings that we have about ourselves are comparable to the feelings that a reflection may have about itself. Not knowing that my true nature is sun, which is limitless, which is steady, which is bright, which is boundless almost. So when this reflection does not know that sun is my true nature, then the apparent limitations are all taken to be real. It is true that the reflection does appear restless or shaking, it does appear dull, it does appear one among many. That is appearance, but that is not the reality. So appearance is one thing, reality is another thing. But when the appearance is taken to be the real, then the reality is lost sight of. When the snake is taken to be real, the rope is lost sight of. Thus, here the text explains how this jiva who feels limited, jiva means individual self, who feels limited in every way, is comparable to the reflection of Brahman. As we said, reflection is an example. But every aspect of example every aspect is not to be taken. In the reflection model, the sun is up there in the sky, there is bucket here on the earth. That means that the image and the reflection are separated in space. The water which reflects also is different from sun. So in that example, there is this distance in place, there is duality between what is reflected and the reflecting medium. So these aspects are there as far as the example of reflection is concerned. So we do not have to take all these aspects of the example. Otherwise misunderstanding can happen. That look, you say that I am the reflection and sun is the image and Brahman is image, so Brahman is different and there is a distance between the two. And reflection takes place where? In our mind, in the subtle body. As we've been saying, the subtle body has a nature to reflect consciousness, reflect the self. And consciousness is different, subtle body or mind is different. If you take that reflection example in all its aspects, then this idea of duality will come. But it is not to be taken that way. So all aspects of the example or illustration are not taken, only the necessary aspect is that the reflection is, the nature of reflection is determined by the reflecting medium. And therefore, the sense of smallness and other things that the reflection feels are not real. They are due to the reflecting medium. This is all that is meant. It is not meant that Brahman is away someplace and the mind where Brahman is reflected is away from Brahman. That is not intended. So, those aspects of the illustration are not intended. Because people quibble about these things, So this is what you said. You said that it is it's like I am the reflection. But in reflection, these distances are there. Where is that distance here? In fact, in Brahma Sutra, this question is raised. So Upanishad gives this example. Upanishad gives the example of a sun being reflected in the pools of water, or the moon being reflected in various containers of water. So then the question is asked that look, there is a distance between the sun and the reflecting medium. Are you trying to tell us that such a distance obtains between Brahman and you? So that Shankaracharya explains that no, it is not that you should take the example in every aspect, that the growth, the reflection appears to be growing, the reflection appears to be shrinking, the reflection, if the water grows, the reflecting medium grows, then reflection also grows. If reflecting medium shrinks, then reflection also appears to be shrinking. If the reflecting medium is is restless or disturbed, the reflection appears to be disturbed. In that aspect alone, the example is to be taken. Because I myself remember imagining this, that Brahman is here and then mind is there and the reflection. So that is not intended. Meaning that reflection, no example is intended in its all aspects. No example will work. Even the 10th man story or the rope snake, any example you take, only certain aspects of the example is to be taken, are to be taken, and not all of them. Saeva jiva prakrutya swasmad ishwaram bhinnatve janati. Prakriti by nature, by birth, by habit. Swasmad ishwaram bhinnatve janati. This jiva takes oneself to be different from Ishvara. So there is Ishvara. This jiva by nature takes himself to be different from Ishvara. Because by nature he takes himself to be limited. Basically, it is the nature of jiva to be identified with the body, with the gross and subtle bodies, and that is how superimpose the limitations of the gross and subtle bodies upon oneself and feeling limited on account of the superimposition. That is, the body is subject to death and this jiva takes himself to be mortal, takes himself to be ignorant, takes himself to be limited, takes himself to be lacking. So, that lack, etc., which are there in the upadhi. No doubt the personality is limited in every way, but all those limitations are thought to be limitations of the self. Therefore, by nature, this jiva takes himself to be limited. Nobody has taught him. Nobody has taught him that you are limited. But without being taught, he takes himself to be so. Nobody has taught him that you are a man or woman, but he takes himself. So, at one point, Shankaracharya says, look at this Maya, what it does. This person, in spite of being told a number of times that you are Brahman, you are limitless, he doesn't accept it. But without being told that you are a son, or you are a father, or you are this, he accepts it, because that is the nature. And therefore, by nature, he takes himself to be different and limited. And therefore, looks upon limitlessness as separate from him. A limited being takes naturally limitlessness away from him. Thus, he becomes a seeker and there is something to be sought. Like the 10th man becomes a seeker and there is something to be sought. So, by nature, the 10th man takes himself to be limited on account of identification. In that case, identification, upadhi is the number 9. On account of identifying with the number 9, this fellow takes himself to be 9th and thus takes himself to be different from the 10th. And moment this conclusion is arrived at that 10th man is lost or I am not the 10th man, the 10th man is different from me, then it sets in motion a whole chain of activities of searching for the 10th man. So search for the 10th man is naturally originating from this conclusion that the 10th man is lost, I am the 10th man. And so also this jiva is always searching for something. He is always searching for something. He wants to be something. He wants to be free. He wants to be free from limitations. He wants to be limitless. He wants to be independent. This is what he wants to be. And therefore, he keeps on performing one activity after another in the hope of becoming free, in the hope of becoming limitless. So, therefore, this limited being, or the one who takes oneself to be limited, takes the limitless to be different from oneself, and thus to be limitless becomes the goal. Now there is an agenda in life, there is a goal in life. Everyone is born with this one goal, and that is to be limitless, meaning becoming free from limitation. So here when it is said that Jiva takes himself to be separate from Ishvara, it can be understood in this way, that every Jiva on account of taking himself limited, takes the limitless to be different from himself, and thus becomes a seeker of freedom, seeker of limitlessness. Just as the 10th man becomes the seeker of the 10th man. Or Ishvara, if you look upon Ishvara as the creator, sustainer, dissolver, omniscient, omnipotent, then also this Jiva takes Ishvara to be different from him, because he knows that he is limited. In every way, Ishvara is free from all limitations. That way, Ishvara, the Lord, the Creator, the ruler is also taken to be totally different from oneself. So thus one is born with the tendency or with this nature to identify with the body. One is born with a nature of looking upon oneself as limited, and therefore one has his natural desire. One is born with the desires to become free from limitation and search for limitlessness. This is the story of what we call jiva. So this statement here describes the story of our life, looking upon the goal as different from the one who wants to reach the goal. So the gantavya and the ganta, the praptavya and the prapta. So praptavya, that which is to be attained, is separate from the one who wants to attain. Whereas the reality is praptasya praptihi. In fact, our life is meant for attainment of what is already attained. But then, not knowing that, I'm always trying to attain something, become something, want to become successful, want to become great. Not knowing my own greatness, not knowing that, in fact, success, what I'm searching for, is already my nature. Now these terms, Jiva and Ishvara, are further explained in the next two sentences. Says the next statement, Avidyopadhi san Atma Jiva hai iti uchyate Mayopadhi san Atma Ishvara hai ityuchyate. See the sentence, Atma Jiva iti uchyate. This Atma, the self, Satchit Ananda, the limitless, is called Jiva. How is it called Jiva? Avidya Upadhi san. On account of the Upadhi of Avidya, on account of ignorance, this Atma or Satchidananda is called Jiva. Maya Upadhi san, Atma Ishvarati uchyate. Same Atma, same Satchidananda is called Ishvara. So Jiva and Ishvara are not two separate entities, but then they are the names of the same entity, that is Atma. And we already saw Atma ka, what's the nature of self? Satchidananda Swarupaha. That Atma is Satchidananda. So one Satchidananda, Sat means existence, Chit means awareness, Ananda means wholeness or completeness, meaning one who is in truth, existence, awareness and happiness, takes himself to be Jiva, a seeker. Takes himself to be subject to birth and death. Takes himself to be mortal, limited, and a seeker of immortality. Then every day he prays, Asatoma Sadgamaya. O Lord, please lead me from untruth to truth. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Lead me from ignorance to knowledge, or from darkness to light. Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya. Lead me from death to immortality. Thus he becomes a seeker of immortality. Avidya Upadhi san, because the Upadhi or limiting adjunct of Avidya. Upadhi, you know how Upadhi brings about an apparent change in what is nearby, like this flower or this cloth will bring about a sort of an appearance of color in this crystal. So this cloth or the color is called Upadhi, and so also ignorance becomes the Upadhi. Ignorance brings about these notions in myself. The notion that I am a Jiva, I am limited, subject to birth and death, I am mortal. So these conclusions are brought about by Upadhi, or the limiting adjunct called Avidya or ignorance. Maya Upadhi san, same Atma Satchidananda, from standpoint of the Maya, is called Ishvara. This you can say that either you call it Atma or Brahman, so he has two costumes. One is the costume of ignorance, other is the Avidya, other is the costume of Maya. So Ishvara also is only the name of Brahman when Brahman puts on as though the costume of Maya, or when Brahman is looked on from the standpoint of Maya. And therefore, it is one Atma alone, one Satchit Ananda, or one Brahma alone that is called by two different names, he is called Jiva or he is called Ishvara. Like one actor putting on two different costumes is called sometimes beggar and sometimes is called king. So the designation beggar also is with reference to the costume. The designation of king also is reference to the costume. In itself, he is free from both beggarliness as well as kingliness. And similarly also, avidya or ignorance is a costume, therefore Brahman comes to be called Jiva, Maya is costume, Brahman comes to be called Ishvara. And therefore the next sentence is Evam upadhi bhedat jiveshwar bheda drishti yavat paryantam tishtade tavat paryantam janma maranadi rupa samsarah न निवर्तते. Evam, in this manner, upadhi bhedat, because of upadhi, different in costumes. Jiveshwara bhedastuhi yavat paryantam tishtati, as long as the bhedastuhi, as long as the distance or the separation between Jiva and Ishvara is sustained, so as long as it continues, as long as it persists, Tavat paryantam janma maranadi rupa samsara na nivartate. So long the samsara characterized by janma and marana, the birth and death, it does not come to an end. So samsara is a term that we hear. Now we read here samsara. Samsarati asmin is samsara. That in which one keeps on slipping or one keeps on going. Janma maranadi rupa. And so, from birth to birth, this Jivatma goes on. So, or from death to death. Mrityos mrityumapnoti yaha naneva pashyati, says Kathopanishad, that this person goes from one death to the other. As long as he takes this duality to be real. And understand that the primary duality which is a problem in our life is the duality between the seeker and the sought. That I am a seeker. I am a seeker of freedom, seeker of happiness, or seeker of limitlessness. And this limitlessness or happiness is sought, is something that I am seeking. So I am seeker separated by maybe time and place from what I am seeking. So distance between seeker and sought. Where is the freedom? Freedom is perhaps in wealth. Let me acquire that. Where is freedom? Freedom perhaps is in some power or position, let me acquire that. Where is freedom? Freedom maybe is in some place, and thus I keep on acquiring various things in life. And these days we don't plan, but in the former olden days those who planned for Swarga or heavens. Where is freedom? That's heaven. So therefore they become seeker of heavens. But then I become a seeker. Unfortunately, there is nothing in the world that can give me that unconditional freedom that I am seeking, because whatever is limited. And therefore, however big it is, however great it is still limited. However great the wealth is, I'm $100 billion, the richest man in the world, and still I'm limited. Someday he'll become a trillionaire, There was a calculation several years ago, every day they were calculating when this fellow will become trillionaire. At this rate, if he keeps on growing, how many years will it take for him to become trillionaire? 33 years or X number of years, whatever. And still, I still remain a seeker, because even $1 trillion also cannot make me feel complete. Na vittena tarpaniyo manushya, says Nachiketa, that wealth can never satisfy a person. By wealth we mean money as well as power, whatever name, fame, one can never be satisfied. Because, they are limited, and it is not their fault that they cannot satisfy, except it's my fault that I expect from them what they cannot deliver. So everything is fine as it is. The problem is not in them, problem is in me, that I expect to extract oil out of sand, which doesn't have it. And therefore, if I feel disappointed, it is not the sand that has disappointed me, it is my expectation that has disappointed me. And thus, my expectation that something, some event, some situation, some place, some becoming will somehow make me feel fulfilled. Well, in that hope I keep on working, day in and day out, from birth to death. And if that search is not complete, well, I'm going to take another embodiment in search of becoming totally free. But unfortunately, the conclusion that freedom has to come, that I have to become free, I have to become big, somebody has to make me happy, somebody has to make me free, that conclusion never goes. And therefore, I find that nothing is ever able to make me contented or happy as I want, and thus this search goes on. This is called samsara. It is a life of birth and death. Well, birth and death is not samsara, very life of seeking is samsara. Or life of becoming is samsara. So life of human being is characterized as becoming, always trying to become something different from what he is. Not being satisfied with what he is, always trying to become something else, something different. It is his life of becoming that is called samsara. And that's what brings about this repeated birth and death. So very often, samsara is described as this series of birth and death. And moksha is explained as freedom from this series of birth and death, that you don't have to be born again. So that's how moksha is explained. Some people have problem with that. Swami, what's wrong with being born? I don't mind being born, I want to be born. So if you say moksha, meaning freedom from birth and death, he says, I don't want this moksha. How come you don't want? Because I want to be born. So listen, moksha means freedom. If you want to be born, it's up to you. Moksha means freedom from a sense of smallness. But birth means sense of smallness. Birth means association and identification with one body. And therefore, a person who is embodied or a person who is identified with the body-mind complex can never feel free, can never feel freedom from limitation, and therefore, so birth is equal to identification with body. And identification with body means this feeling the sense that is brought about by the body. It is possible that there can be a body in which one does not feel limited by body. That is what we call the liberated person, who has recognized his true identity, and therefore it doesn't matter that is his body or the costume. Like an actor who knows his identity, therefore whatever costume he wears doesn't matter to him. But until then, if he takes himself to beggar, then he keeps on begging, trying to become rich. Even upadhi bhedat, not recognizing that this distance between the seeker and sought is only due to ignorance and nothing else. And Ishvara is now, what I am seeking? I am seeking to be Ishvara. Who is Ishvara? He is omniscient. He is omnipotent. He is almighty. He is all-knowing. And that is what I am trying to become in my life. If you see what it is that we are trying to become, what a human being wants to become really is that I am seeking to be immortal, I am seeking to be all-knowing, I am seeking to be all happy. This is what I want. And therefore, trying to become Ishvara. I want all the knowledge in the world. I want to be omniscient because I constantly feel the lack of knowledge. And therefore, I want all the knowledge in the world. So if you add up all the knowledge, that is Ishvara. I feel limited in power. I want to be all powerful. I don't want to be controlled by anything, anybody. I want to control everything. That again, only Ishvara is one who is not controlled by anybody, who controls everything. So thus, when I want to control everything, in effect, I want to become Ishvara. Ishvara is the only one who knows everything and doesn't suffer from ignorance. I keep suffering from ignorance. I want to know everything. In effect, I want to become Ishvara. What I am trying to do is, at the level of the upadhi, at the level of body, I am trying to become immortal. And so I keep on stretching the life of this body. 1 more year, 2 years, 5 years. New drugs keep on coming up, new investigations. And so people are dying, of heart attack, and therefore they should not. What will happen then? Suppose nobody dies, what will happen? You keep on stretching the life. So there are heart disease, Swamiji, X number of percentage of Americans are dying by heart disease. But then one day they will realize, what will they do? So many people dying from cancer, no death of cancer, no death from heart, no death from anything. So what shall we do? Keep on tottering at the age of 99, 100, 101, So anyway, keep on stretching the life as much as you can. Not worrying about whether the quality is there or not. Just keep stretching the length of. Okay? And so, one wants to be immortal. Ishvara alone is immortal. We want to be immortal. So this desire on our part is like becoming Ishvara. I don't think it in that terms, but if you ask exactly what I want, it will amount to my aspirations will be fulfilled only when really I become Ishvara. But at the level of Upadhi, I am trying to do that. As I said, the level of body, I want to become immortal. At the level of my intellect, I want to be omniscient. I want to know everything. How much a little intellect can retain? How much can it understand? How much can it retain? But I want to be all-knowing, all-powerful, immortal. And there is nothing wrong in this desire. It is fair that a person desires, except that this is a desire that is doomed for failure because nobody can ever do that. Nobody can ever become. Like the Mullah Nasruddin, like cooking, This Mullah Nasruddin had one debate with his friends in a coffee shop in the evening. They were just boasting, that's all. Everybody boasts, I can do this and I can do that. So Mullah was boasting. You know something? You see this mountain in front of us? Yes. This was winter and it was freezing cold. He said, I can spend a whole night on the mountain without any help. You have to give me $100. Other friend said, we'll do that. So Mullah went to that mountain and spent the whole night really. Next day the people asked, what did you do? How did you survive in that freezing cold? He says, well, I didn't feel the cold at all. How come? Because I was reading whole night. How could you read in the darkness? I had one candle with me. In that light, I was reading and that's why I did not feel cold. So the friend said, okay, now we understand. Our condition was you should not have anything, but you took a candle with you, and that's why it kept you warm, and that is why you could survive. So they refused to honor their commitment. They didn't give him the $100. Poor Mullah could not do anything. So one day he invited all these fellows for dinner, and they all came. They all seated at a dining table. Mullah goes inside. Okay, I'll just get food. As soon as it's ready, I'll bring food out for you. He goes inside and he's finishing the cooking. 15 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, these fellows are hungry and waiting, and then food is not coming in. So one of them goes inside. Hey Mullah, what are you doing? So I'm cooking, I'm just finishing. To his surprise, what did he find? A huge pot in which Mullah was cooking some khichdi and rice and stuff like that. Huge pot. Underneath there was one candle. Can a candle ever cook that? And so this little upadhi, this my body-mind complex, with that I'm trying to become all-knowing, all-powerful, immortal. It can never do that. And therefore, ultimately a person gets exhausted and he dies and he starts all over again. Again runs in the same rat race. As Swami, in spite of winning the race, he still remains rat only. Thus he continues and continues. So this is called samsara. It is not that we are born, etc. But it is that there is always this desire of craving to become something. A tremendous dissatisfaction with the way I am, that's all. A dissatisfaction with the way I am. I am not satisfied with myself, not happy with myself, always grumpy and complaining and demanding. That's what I am. Because basically I am complaining about myself, grumpy about myself, demanding of myself. And that complaint about myself comes out as complaining about the whole world. Basically I criticize myself, and therefore I criticize the world. I demand of myself to be all limitless, therefore I demand of the world. So all these inner problems alone come out as all behavioral problems. But the inner problem ultimately is ignorance, which brings about this idea that I am a limited being. And that brings about a revolt to become free from the sense of limitation. As long as I take myself to be different from Ishvara, as long as I take myself different from Satchidananda, so I am trying to become Satchidananda, I am trying to become. Sat means immortality, Chit means all knowledge, Ananda means total happiness. I am trying to become that. And that becoming can never, be satisfied, can never be successful. And therefore, tavat paryantam janmananadi rupa samsara nani vartate. Until then, is samsara characterized by a struggle. Birth and death is okay, constant struggle. And struggle originating from a constant sense of dissatisfaction. And therefore all frustrations in life. So Swami, everybody is inside a wounded person. Everybody is a defeated, wounded person. Because some desires are fulfilled, many desires are not fulfilled. After all, the world is very vast and very powerful. And therefore, I do not get my way all the time. And therefore, I have to swallow and swallow and swallow. Sometimes I fight when I can assert. Very often I cannot fight, I keep quiet. But inside, I swallow and complain and I'm hurt. So everybody is a hurt, defeated, frustrated person. And that is called samsara, a sense of defeating, a sense of frustration, a sense of failure. That is samsara. And it goes on from one birth to the other. Therefore, what should you do? So, next sentence is Tasmat karanad na jiveshwarayoho bhed buddhi svikarya. Tasmat karanat, for that reason, jiveshwarayoho bhed buddhi na svikarya. One should not accept that bhed buddhi, the notion or conclusion about jiveshwaryoho bheda, the duality or the division or separation between jiva and Ishvara, or between the seeker and the sought, this should not be accepted. So this is the first step in the teaching of Vedanta, that one should not accept one's sense of limitation. May you not give reality to your sense of limitation. But I feel it. Even if you feel it, it is not real. It is like I see a snake there. Even though you perceive a snake, it is not there. As long as you give reality to the snake, so long you will never know the rope and recognize that snake is not real. Then what is there? Well, let us investigate what is there. But I will proceed to investigate only when I understand that snake is not real. Then I will perhaps bring a torchlight and show there and find out that it is rope. But as long as the snake is taken to be real, I am not going to investigate whether my conclusion is right or not, and therefore whatever I do will be only determined by my conclusion about the reality of snake. And so also, as long as I take the sense of limitation to be real, I can never become free. As long as the 10th boy takes the 10th boy as lost, so long he can never find him. Because one who is trying to find the 10th man himself is the 10th man, and so also one who is trying to become free himself is free. And the very desire to become free amounts to the denial of freedom. Just as the very desire to search for the 10th man amounts to denial of the 10th man. Because in that desire there is the conclusion that I am not the 10th man. And based on that conclusion and desire, if I keep on doing things, performing act of searching, so long that conclusion persists that the 10th man is lost. I am not the 10th man. No amount of action and no amount of activities, no amount of achievement will change that conclusion. What will change that conclusion? What will happen to the 10th man for him to change conclusion? Nothing. More he searches, more he is disappointed. Harder he searches, more he is disappointed. All he will do is to discover perhaps or create or invent new methods of searching. And so he may create a boat, and then he might create a steamboat, and he might create a big engine, all kinds of things, and he can even create a helicopter to see whether the 10th man is lost somewhere. So all scientific development will take place for searching for the 10th man. New shoes are there, he can now swim with some different swimsuits, he can fly, he can have motorcycles, all kinds of vehicles he can develop. And so we are all advanced. So we are making progress in our life. We are all advanced, very high-tech people. Then what are you doing? Searching for the 10th man. That doesn't go. Any amount of advancement, that will not change that conclusion that the 10th man is lost. What will change that conclusion? In that process, he may do anything. He might discover some treasure also and become a rich man because he was searching with the 10th man. So he can build a big house, he can do all kinds of things. But the fact that the 10th man is lost, I am not the 10th man, I have to search for the 10th man, that conclusion will never go. No activity and no result of the activity, no karma or karma phala can ever change that conclusion. And similarly also, no amount of achievement in our life will ever change the conclusion that I am limited. Nothing will change it. Because in spite of whatever I add into myself, I am still going to be limited. I can never become immortal regardless of how long do I live. I may live 75 years, 80, 85, 87, 93, 98, 99, okay. I can break all the records 117 years, suppose, so what? Abhi sarvam jivitam alpameva. As Nachiketa says, whatever be the length of duration of my life, it is still going to be insignificant in reference to the infinite time. Any length or any life span is going to be insignificant. And therefore, I can never become Satchidananda. I can never become limitless. The 10th man can never find the 10th man. As long as there is conclusion that the 10th man is lost. Therefore, here the text says, Tasmat karanat na jiveshvarayoho bhed buddhi svikarya. For that reason, you should not accept as real the bheda, the difference you feel between yourself and the limitlessness, between the seeker and the sought. Don't take it to be real. Recognize that it is a notion. You are what you are searching for. Tattvamasi. So this is a teaching. Tattvamasi. Tat meaning what you are trying to be, namely limitless. Tvamasi, you already are. You already are the 10th man. So as long as this Bheda Buddhi is there, so long it will never come. This is the basic teaching of Vedanta. Vedanta teaching is simple. This, that you are what you are seeking to be. It is praptasya praptihi, attainment of what is already attained. It is accomplishment of what is already accomplished. And therefore, but Swamiji, you mean I already attained what I want to attain? Yes. But I want to be a millionaire. When I haven't attained $1 million. I want to be the President of the United States. I have not yet that. But all of those things also you want for a reason. You don't want money for the sake of money. You don't want power for the sake of power. You want all of them ultimately for the sake of freedom. You want them for your sake. Atmanasukamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Whatever is dear to me in the world is only because my freedom is dear to me. One thing that is dear to me is freedom. My wholeness, completeness, happiness, freedom, that is dear to me. And whatever promises that freedom or happiness becomes dear to me by the way, until I discover what it is, and then it is no more dear. So until then, I love it. Then I allow it, So I love you as long as there is a promise. Then I allow you. Go your way, I go my way. When I find that it doesn't fulfill that promise. And thus I keep searching. Like that Anjaneya Hanuman. This monkey god Hanumanji was once with, we'll see tonight, this play about Lord Rama. This incident may not be there, but this Rama, Sita and Hanuman is following them and they are, I guess, going for a walk in the evening, and Ram and Sita are talking about the old days and the exploits, parakram of Hanuman and what all he did, how they served them. And Sitaji felt so good. She felt so good about Hanuman that she took out the very necklace from her, the pearl necklace from her neck, and just gave it to Hanuman. Here it is. Hanuman is walking behind and they are walking ahead. And after some time, Sita heard some crackling sounds coming from behind. And she looked back, what's happening? This monkey, what he's doing is, he takes one pearl, puts it between the teeth, cracks it, splits it open, looks for something, throws it away. Another pearl, put between the teeth, crack it, split it open, look for something. Hey Hanuman, what are you doing? These precious pearls, you're breaking them, throwing them away, what are you doing? What are you looking for? I'm looking for Rama. Every pearl he opens, looks for Rama. Doesn't find it, throws it away. Where is your Rama? My Rama is here. He's right in his heart. And so what is already in his heart, what is his own self, he can never find anywhere. Thus, every achievement in our life is comparable with this pearl. Until we achieve that, with the promise that it may contain what I am seeking. That achievement comes, I will split open that pearl of achievement. Look, does it contain what I want? Is that the freedom? That limitlessness? No. I throw. Go for another achievement, and this is the process of life. So as long as you accepted the Bheda Buddhi, as long as you accept yourself to be a limited being, and therefore accept God as separate from you, or Brahman as separate from you, or Satchidananda as separate from you, so long this process of becoming and searching will never come to an end. Therefore, do not accept it. Don't accept that you are limited. Don't accept that you are mortal. Don't accept that you are ignorant. Don't accept that you are unhappy. Don't accept it. But I am, still don't accept it. Even though it is your experience, don't accept it. Because that experience is comparable to the experience of the 10th man who thinks that the 10th man is lost. Avidya avidya is on account of ignorance that you think. And therefore a long description was given here to explain how the sense of limitation arises. That is, the whole creation was described. And we were told how from the 5 grossified elements this gross body is made. How from the 5 subtle elements this subtle body is made. And how thus we have this upadhi, which is a product of ignorance. And how the identification of the upadhi makes me feel a sense of limitation. So Vedanta explains to us the sense of limitation. Why do I feel mortal? Because of taking the body to be myself. And body is mortal, therefore I take myself to be mortal. Thus, I feel limited, mortal, ignorant, dependent, helpless. All of these are wrong conclusions about me. All of these are false perceptions about me. And nothing will change that perception unless you adopt appropriate means. It is not by becoming that this perception will change. It is not by searching that the perception will change. It is by removing ignorance that the perception will change. And ignorance can be removed only when you pursue knowledge. So not ask this question, meaning that do this investigation with the help of the teacher and the scriptures. Who am I? Atma tarhi kaha. What is the nature of the self? It is Satchidananda Swarupa. That you are Sat, you are Chit, you are Ananda. That you are limitless. This is what the teacher teaches us. But how can I believe that? And so, the next question is here. Nanu sahankarasya kinchidnyasya jivasya nirhankarasya sarvajnasya Ishvarasya Tattvamasi iti mahavakyad katham abheda buddhisyad ubhayoho viruddharma krantatvad. But you are saying that I am Ishvara? Tattvamasi, you are that, you are Brahman? How can it be? How can I be Brahman? Nanu sahankarasya kinchidnyasya jivasya. I am the one who is jiva, the individual. Ahankara means a sense of individuality. I who is an individual being. Kinchidnya meaning extremely limited in knowledge. Swam alpajnya, alpashaktiman. Who am I? I am nothing. Insignificant. Like a speck of dust in the whole universe, who am I? So this is my understanding about myself. Where am I? I am right now in Salisbury, in Asha Vidya Gurukulam, seated in one place. In one place and one time. And around me there is a whole hall and the Gurukulam. And then there is whole Salisbury and this Pennsylvania and United States and the whole planet Earth. When I look at myself from the standpoint of what am I? in the whole country. What am I on the whole earth? And what is this earth? Just one of the planets in this solar system. And what's a solar system? There's one little sun in a system in the galaxy of billions of stars. And what is a galaxy? One among again countless galaxies. So when I think like that, who am I? Totally insignificant. You say I'm limitless? How can I believe that? I'm limited in every way. In knowledge also I am limited. In capacity also I am limited. In power also I am limited. In longevity also I am limited. In every way I am limited. What does it, Swamiji, what does it matter whether I am? Nobody even bothers about me. The home also nobody asks me, nobody takes any notice of me. You say I am limitless. Huh? And therefore this conclusion, the idea that I am limited has become so deeply rooted that even in spite of being repeatedly told and made him to see that you are limited, it just doesn't go. How can I be limitless? How can I be complete? You say I am happiness? You don't know, Swamiji. There is nobody who is as sad as I am. Although I may appear smiling and everything else, but inside I know what I am. Inside, as I said, I am a defeated, frustrated, miserable person. Helpless. Because how many desires I entertain? How many desires are fulfilled? Few desires are fulfilled by chance, many other desires are not fulfilled. What can I do? I asked my mom for a candy, she gave me one. I want another one, she said no. What can I do? And I asked my boss for a raise, he gave me one raise. I asked for two, no. Well, what can I do? And thus, everywhere I find myself helpless. Swamiji, you don't know the problem with physicians. So they thought they are the most luckiest fellows. These insurance companies and these fellows and then everybody has complaints. And so complain and complain. Nobody can be ever said. It's as understandable. Thus everybody feels so restricted and so controlled. You might bill your patient $150, those fellows will only approve $37. That's all. That's what you'll get. That's it. And nothing more than that. What can you do? You want to practice? Do that. Otherwise, give it up. And where will you go? Fellow keeps on giving up also sometimes. As I did when I was a child. So I got one candy. My elder brother, who is just 2 years older than me, got 2 candies. I asked my mom, how come you are giving one, giving him 2? She says, well, you are still small, and therefore one is good for you. He is big. No, but I am also big. Because parents think that children are small, children don't think so. Or parents think that you are big. The elder brother always is told, you are big. And therefore this is small fellow. So you must understand. You must be large-hearted. You must share. You must do this. But I am not, he doesn't feel he's big. Why should he share all the time? Why should he do that? But anyway, this is what I am required to do. If I am a younger brother, then I don't get as much as the elder brother gets. If I am older brother, then all the time I have to make this fellow, and these younger fellows are always very, very smart chaps, And so, whatever, I'm elder, then also problem, younger, then also problem, middle, of course, are the problems. And all the time, always felt deprived, there was injustice, unfairness. All the time I felt. And however perfect, there are no perfect parents in the world, and there are nothing, However good parents are there, still. Because I feel so limited about myself that regardless of what you do to me, the whole world is trying to make me happy, I cannot. Even God cannot make me happy, because when will I be happy? When I become limitless, that will never be. Poor God is trying all the time to satisfy all my desires and give me what I want, and still I am not happy. So this conclusion that I am limited and helpless, so anishaya shochiti muhyamanaha, says Mundakopanishad, dva suparna sayuja sakhaya samanam vruksham parishashvajate. On the self-same tree, these 2 birds are there. One is a bird called Jiva, other is called the bird Ishvara. Samana, they are both of them Suparna. Both of them are beautiful birds, having beautiful feathers or wings. Sayuja always joined, Sakhaya always similar, meaning that one. But then there is a notion of 2. Samane vrikshe purusha nimagna. even though I am in company with God, with the limitless. And how close that company is, it is my own self, not separated from me. And still, Anisha Shochati Muhyamanaha, this poor jiva feels helpless. Shochati, all the time grieving. Muhyamanaha, being deluded again and again, is all the time grieving. Even though Lord Krishna says, Ashochan, Anvashochastu Arjuna, there is no cause for grief at all. But I am grieving. So this is my Lord. And now you come and tell me I am Ishvara, I am limitless, I am free. How can I be? Because what is my understanding of freedom? My understanding of freedom is that I can do what I want to do. That I can get what I want. Then I think that I am free. If I can fulfill every desire in my mind, then I think I am free. I can get whatever I want, then I am free. I can do whatever I want, then I am free. And I am trying from birth onwards, from all that embodiments, I am trying that. How do you say that? I am limitless, I am free. Kinchidnyasya jivasya nirahankarasya sarvajnasya. You say I am Ishvara, I am the Lord, I am Brahman. And Brahman is what? Omniscient, omnipotent, almighty. How can I be? How can this little insignificant creature be Almighty God or all-knowing God? Iti Mahavakyat. So this is called Mahavakya. Tattvamasi iti Mahavakyat. Mahavakya means major statement. It is major not because it is a very long or complicated statement, but a very major, very profound truth is revealed by this statement, Tattvamasi, that thou art. Thou are you who take yourself to be a limited, insignificant being. In fact, you are Brahman, you are limitless. So that statement which propounds the identity between Jiva and Brahman, or the individual self and Brahman, that statement is called Mahavakya. And this is basically the teaching of the Upanishad. Upanishad means Mahavakya. Upanishad Vakya, or the statement of Upanishad, means this Mahavakya. And understanding Upanishad means understanding this Mahavakya. A deliberation upon Upanishad means deliberation upon the meaning of this Mahavakya. Therefore, this whole text Tattvabodha also is nothing but a deliberation upon the meaning of this statement, Tattvamasi, that thou art. You are Brahman. You are limitless. Even if you say that, how can I believe that? How can I accept it? How can it be? Meaning what you are saying is impossible. You are saying that, so in Viveka Chudamani these questions are asked. How can a firefly say that you are, if you sell a firefly, that you are sun? How can you believe that? It's like telling an atom that you are a mountain. Like telling a little puddle of water that you are ocean. Telling a firefly that you are sun. How can it be? How can a puddle of water be ocean? How can little pebble be Mount Meru? How can it be? And so when you say that you are limitless, you are Brahman, it is similar to that. Therefore, how can it be? Mahavakyat katham abheda buddhi syat. How can I gain the understanding of the identity or oneness between Jiva and Brahman? Ubhayoho viruddharma krantatvat. Because my understanding of Ishvara is that he is away from me. He is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. My understanding of myself is that I am limited in my pervasiveness, my knowledge, my power. How can these two, who are totally contradictory in nature, how can they be identical? How can a drop of water, or how can a wave in the water be said that you are ocean? How can it be? How can a little spark be told that you are fire? How can it be? I am a little spark. And so the statement says, hey spark, you are fire. Hey wave, you are ocean. Oh little ornament, you are gold. And so also it is, hey Jiva, in fact you are Brahman. How can it be? How can Jiva, is limited in every way, be Brahman? So Vayoho viruddharma krantatvat. Where Jiva and Brahman, both of them are endowed with totally contradictory attributes, and therefore how can there be oneness or identity between these two apparently different entities endowed with contradictory attributes? So this question is asked and answered in the subsequent passages. We'll have to continue that in our next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.